On January 8, 1964, President Johnson held a meeting with Congress, and he introduced the problems poverty was causing. As the dollars put into poverty increased, poverty decreased dramatically, and many families had homes, jobs, food, and clothes. During the meeting with Congress, President Johnson stated that many people have lost hope in a better environment for their children and families due to the poverty problem. Very often, a lack of jobs and money is not the cause of poverty, but the symptom. What President Johnson means is because of the way the poor are treated, they lack the ability to get a job. Lots of families were very grateful that President Johnson was aware of their struggles and ready to help in any way possible. Poverty continued to decrease well into the 1960s and didn't stop there, continuing into the 2000s. The data was recorded and put onto graphs to show the success of President Johnson. There were many people doubting President Johnson when they heard he was fighting for the poverty, but those critics never asked why he was doing it. In a land of great wealth, families must not live in hopeless poverty. What President Johnson means is, we all have money to help each other out and be one big happy community.
All Americans must have the privileges of citizenship, regardless of race. And they are going to have those privileges of citizenship, regardless of race.
Martin Luther King Jr. and President Johnson worked together on many occasions because they had similar agendas. Even after 50 years, poverty is still decreasing, and many people have homes, jobs, and food to support themselves and their families.
There's a trained mind and a healthy body. It requires a decent home and the chance to find a job and the opportunity to escape from the clutches of poverty.
On January 8, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson declared unconditional war on poverty. President Johnson refused to give up even when people doubted his true intentions on what he truly believed in for the war on poverty. Meeting with people who suffered from poverty really opened up President Johnson's eyes to the hopeless people of America. President Lyndon B. Johnson was a very resourceful man and believed in working for what you truly want in life. Many contracts had to be signed for President Johnson to fulfill his dream, but he stayed positive through them all. President Lyndon B. Johnson mastered the task of giving speeches. He gave people hope everywhere he went.
My first job after college was as a teacher in Cotulla, Texas, in a small Mexican-American school. Few of them could speak English, and I couldn't speak much Spanish. My students were poor, and they often came to class without breakfast, hungry. And they knew, even in their youth, the pain of prejudice.
The Great Society rests on abundance and liberty for all. It demands an end to poverty and racial injustice. Head Start was one of the many programs based off the President Johnson's Poverty Project. Overall, at least 1 million individuals received benefits from one of these programs. All of the programs had an average cost of $90,000 per person. Federal and state governments spent $943 billion in 2013 alone on these programs. President Johnson strongly believed in an education and wished it upon everyone.
They never seemed to know why people disliked them, but they knew it was so, because I saw it in their eyes. I often walked home late in the afternoon after the classes were finished, wishing there was more that I could do. But all I knew was to teach them the little that I knew, hoping that it might help them against the hardships.
Many people thought the money for poverty should be used for the veterans. While President Johnson considered the veterans, him and Martin Luther King Jr. were dealing with one problem at a time. President Johnson believed if there was a war, there had to be a problem. A president's hardest task is not to do what is right, but to know what is right. People flooded streets to support President Johnson and all his work to help them. President Johnson and Martin Luther King Jr. believed in no violence, so the war on poverty was just a verbal war. So many people supported President Johnson because he finally took a stand. Poverty is still a big issue today, but if it weren't for President Johnson, there would be so many more people in poverty. Every day someone goes from poor to living in a decent home and are healthy, all because of President Johnson. So much time was put into this war, and it was mapped and recorded very carefully. President Johnson was the best person to take a stand because he had a great personality and could always understand people. Riots and rallies broke out because of the war, but they didn't affect anything. President Lyndon B. Johnson was very well educated, and he was ready to save everyone. President Johnson's war was known as LBJ taking a stand for the other America. The other America is all the people who can't afford food, homes, doctors, and transportation. To reach his goal of no more poverty, President Johnson knew his community needed to work together. Trying to gain the community's trust was a struggle due to the segregation among them all. From young children to elderly couples, everyone knew they had to work their hardest. While President Johnson and Martin Luther King Jr. didn't always see eye to eye, they both had the same idea for a better world.
We're going to spend a lot of time with Shriver on our poverty thing. I wish you'd give a little thought to it because that offers a lot of opportunity for our young people that have been denied. And we got nearly $1 billion this year, and we ought to get it going around the first of the year. And again, let me congratulate you and say
17.9 billion pounds of food was donated to food banks and pantries across America. Even as the economy grows stronger, there are still too many people in poverty, meaning they are struggling to put food on the table. Some of the poverty-stricken kids come to the Boys and Girls Club to develop essential skills, make lasting connections, and have fun.
The Boys and Girls Club is a safe place to learn, play, and better yourself. Head Start promotes the school readiness of young children from low-income families. The only war I support is the war on poverty. 50 million without health care and 45 million living in poverty. When all our money goes for rent, our food money gets spent.
if they are never taught to read or write, if their bodies are stunted from hunger, if their sickness goes untended, if their life is spent in hopeless poverty, just drawing a welfare check. So we want to open the gates to opportunity.